Let's start, however, in the Horn of Africa, where the governor of Somalia's central bank, Abdisalam Umer, has denied allegations that the institution operates as a slush fund for the country's war-torn government. Now, that, of course, was a blunt assessment of the UN monitoring group on Somalia and Eritrea in a confidential report whose contents became public knowledge on Monday. In response, the governor has challenged the United Nations to set up an independent audit into the operations of the bank. As he told CCTV's Mohamed Hirmoge, as far as he's concerned, Somalia's central bank has operated transparently on his watch.
A new UN report indicates that the Central Bank of Somalia is used to push private and not national interest. What do you say of the allegations of irregularities that millions of dollars have been withdrawn from the Central Bank of Somalia to private accounts?
I am completely surprised, perplexed that a representative of reputable organizations as the United Nations can make such allegations without doing their due diligence, without inviting me and talking to me, and without visiting the central bank. I believe that these allegations are baseless, are malicious, and are uncalled for.
Did you audit and found out that indeed these allegations are quite baseless and does not stand on facts?
We have looked into the books, and this is the fact. Almost $17 million have been sent from PricewaterhouseCoopers and Transitional Federal Government account from Nairobi to the Central Bank of Somalia between 2011 and 2012.
Has PricewaterhouseCoopers as an audit firm reacted to this, and what did they say if they did so?
I don't know what PricewaterhouseCoopers did, but what we did is we wrote them a letter. We will give you that letter. We have a copy of the letter that they're rejecting their ways, rejecting their rumors and their fishes information that they have spreading. And I want to challenge the monitoring group of the United Nations. Let's hire an independent audit. Let's hire an independent audit that doesn't work for them, that doesn't work for the Central Bank of Somalia, and come to the truth. All the money that has been taken out from the Central Bank of Somalia went out in a process that's legal and legitimate. What's left is that when money leaves the Central Bank of Somalia, did it really go to the beneficiary? If it was for children, did it go to the children? If it was for salaries, did it go to the salaries? That the Ministry of Finance have to answer, and the departments of the government.
Now let's move on to the day's top story. Egypt's stock market posted record gains in trading today, with the EGX30 rising by as much as 8% at one point in today's trading, as many Egyptians celebrated the removal of President Mohamed Morsi from power. That positive mood was reflected by the businessmen right across Egypt, with some in Cairo hoping that a solution to the country's deep economic crisis would be found this time round. But as CCTV's Yasser Hakim now reports, it remains to be seen just how long this euphoria will last.
It's been a reasonably quiet day. Many Egyptians stayed home to watch the new president being sworn in. Some decided to join the celebrations in Tahrir Square, whilst others returned to work, with banks, shops and businesses beginning to slowly return to normalcy.
We
were closed all week, but now we got rid of Morsi. I'm sure the future is bright.
The events that have unfolded over the night have had a positive impact on businesses.
The financial market has welcomed the news, with an increase in transactions, and the quick end to the crisis has kept the pound intact against the dollar for the second day in a row.
This optimism has been reflected in the stock market, with the best results in 10 years.
The profits reached LE 20 billion in one day. That's a 7.6% gain. The confidence is really high from the local and foreign investors. We're bearing the fruits of the revolution.
A positive mood seems to be overwhelming Egyptians in the morning after the revolution.
The celebrations are continuing.
but Egyptians know that they have a tough task lying ahead, and that is to quickly repair an economy that is badly damaged over the last 2 years. Yasser Hakim for CCTV, Cairo.
CCTV's Miriam Bemard is live in London at the moment. She has international market reactions to the developments in Egypt of the last 24 hours. And very interesting developments they are indeed. Miriam, some fairly interesting developments here. The market reaction across the board was pretty positive. But how will this political crisis in the long run affect Egypt's management of its debt and the fact that it has some pretty thin forex reserves?
Well, Rama, Egyptian foreign currency reserves have dropped from 36 billion US dollars back in 2011 to hovering around 15 billion. In fact, the Bank of America Merrill Lynch just came out with an estimate that Egypt needs about $33 billion to actually finance itself for the next year and a half. But that will be incredibly difficult, of course, Rama, given the country is under military rule right now. Let's not forget that one of the big reasons Egyptians were unhappy with the government in the first place was because they faced public sector cutbacks and higher taxes, and of course a lack of progress in the economy. Now, in the wider picture, some markets have been, muted for the time being, and many fund managers are also watching for any signs of this political turmoil potentially spilling over into the wider region with potential threats to oil production and global oil prices.
Indeed. Talks between the Egyptian government and the fund, the IMF, have essentially dragged on for quite a long while without producing any tangible results. Will those talks proceed now that there's been a change in government? And even if they do, under what terms?
That's the thing. Under the IMF rules, the fund can only actually engage with the government when there's international recognition of a legitimate government in place. And, at this point, the loan is a distant option. The instability comes at a time when Egypt was working so hard to secure that $4.8 billion IMF loan, an important lifeline that foreign investors are also watching quite closely. The IMF isn't probably going to negotiate with military authorities in Cairo without some sort of international consensus, especially given that the fact that the IMF board represents world leaders. And at this point, experts say it's very unclear how long that process could take.
Indeed. We'll have to leave you there for the time being, though. Thank you very much for that update. That's CCTV's Miriam Bemard live over in London. Let's move on to Nigeria. Incidents of oil theft in the most populous country in Africa are growing at an alarming rate, despite government officials and international companies making increasingly dire warnings about the effect this has on Nigeria's total crude output. About 200,000 barrels of oil every day, that's roughly 10% of Nigeria's total output, are siphoned off pipelines crisscrossing the country. Analysts and experts say the majority of the thieves appear to belong to international criminal outfits who in turn sell the crude they steal on global markets. There is, however, another problem, especially in the Niger Delta. Oil spilled during or after the theft tends to harm the local environment quite a bit.
We drink this river water. Then if you don't have money, you drink this water. Then if you have money, we buy pure water and drink.
All oil has a provenance. That's the same idea as the diamonds. When diamonds, everybody knows, and that's the reason why it was possible to do blood diamonds. Because once you knew where the diamond was coming from, then you could raise awareness from those who are buying it, that this diamond that you're buying is bought at the expense of people's blood in order to be able to get there. Now this oil you're buying is the same thing. It's bought at the expense of people's blood and in the Niger Delta.
Let's head south now. A rise in the number of Zambian nationals accessing the internet through their mobile phones has contributed to a 17% jump in the total number of internet users in that country. CCTV's Peter Okaba now has the story of how mobile internet access is helping to bridge the digital divide in Zambia.
In downtown Lusaka, traders are doing brisk business selling various goods. But what seems to stand out on every other street corner are the many shops opening up to market mobile phones. Zambia's increasingly vibrant economy, a decline in the price of mobile handsets, and a growing middle class have seen more people go for smartphones lately, and this is rapidly increasing the number of people who can access the internet via their mobile phones.
Most of the customers that we have come through to actually purchase for phones that have got internet, not the ones that do not have internet, because nowadays people have migrated to smartphones that have got internet, a phone that's got internet on it here. So we've also got not only the high range, we've also got the simple ones like the Chat 222, which is a dual phone, and also we've also launched up our Hero phone. Our Hero phone is a small basic phone, but it can connect you to the internet.
Access to the vast trove of information on the internet and the tools to make use of it is considered key to closing the digital divide between Africa and developed countries. In Zambia, this means increased global awareness as well as an improved quality of life. Victor Chaushi owns a smart mobile phone and says it has allowed him increased awareness of events happening around the world.
When it comes to smartphones, I think they're making our lives easier. There's no need for you to go to the internet. All you have to do, somebody sends you an email, just get your phone, you click, and then you'll be able to see whatever you want to do.
Banks in the country are also taking advantage of affordable internet connections and are encouraging their clients to use mobile banking.
As we took advantage of that as well and looked at how we can extend the already existing internet banking in terms of those facilities. So right now, there's what we call Barclays Mobile Banking and Barclays Tablet Banking, where basically customers can download an application.
Zambia has 8 million mobile phone users at the moment. With internet access becoming increasingly available through mobile phones, fewer people now depend on internet cafes that were the mainstay of internet connectivity for many years. Peter Wakaba, CCTV.
Now, over in East Africa, Kenya's government has proposed exempting maize and bread from value-added taxes under a proposed law that sparked widespread anger and criticism. Now, as far as consumer groups are concerned, however, that concession is nowhere near adequate. On Wednesday, a statement from the Kenyan presidency said that maize flour and bread would remain zero-rated, a day after protesters marched to Parliament demanding that the government scraps plans to impose 16% VAT on those commodities, among many others. In June, Kenya's Treasury Secretary Henry Rotich said he would reintroduce the tax bill exempting only raw food items. But Stephen Mutoro, Secretary General of the Consumer Federation of Kenya, says the new tax will boost headline inflation, which was at around 4.91% by the end of June, and making concessions by the government at this stage is just too little, too late. Time for a short break at 1/4 to the top of the hour. Here's what's coming up next. Finding business opportunities in African problems. We'll tell you about some young tech entrepreneurs in Africa doing just that.
BizAsia. Asia means business.
Welcome back. A social protection program aimed at reducing poverty and hunger while improving child education and healthcare at the same time is changing people's lives in Chinji district in central Malawi. The social cash transfer program was launched in 2006 by Malawi's government, and it provides poor households with cash transfers which ideally make it easier for them to get out of poverty. CCTV's Carol Oyola has the details.
Delia Demisoni is among thousands of Malawians who receive $14 every month in the country's social cash transfer program. This is to help them improve their lives. Demisoni lost her husband to HIV/AIDS. She too lives with the virus. She has one child and is responsible for 4 others who lost their parents to the disease. Demisoni says things have improved since she started receiving the monthly stipend. Currently, the program provides a monthly contribution to more than 26,000 households.
The project has really changed my life. Before, I had literally nothing. Now things are better. Until now, I didn't have any good clothes, and my children didn't have any good clothes either. As for food, well, that was really a big problem for me.
The social cash transfer program also aims at helping families send their children to school and creates HIV/AIDS awareness in their communities. The government is also working with its partners on the program to increase food production, which is the main source of livelihood for communities here. Many households are investing part of the money they receive in agricultural assets like tools, fertilizers and pesticides to increase their yields.
The social cash transfer program supports the ultra-poor and labor-constrained households to be able to engage in agriculture to produce for the growth and the well-being of their households.
According to the United Nations, social protection programs, when combined with other rural development interventions, help create paths out of poverty. Some beneficiaries of the program are now able to hire workers to tend to their farms. Studies indicate that 90 to 95% of all the money distributed is being spent locally. This is because program beneficiaries can afford more and better goods and services from local businesses. The social cash transfer in Malawi is one of 4 pilot countries selected as a focus for the initiative. Carol Oyola, CCTV.
A group of young entrepreneurs in South Africa are challenging Africans across the continent and the world at large to create local solutions to the continent's problems. ThoughtWorks is a global tech firm in the continent's biggest economy, which brings together young, talented individuals to develop commercially viable solutions to the continent's social and economic problems. CCTV's Sumitra Naidu has that story.
Brain Leke joined ThoughtWorks just over a year ago. Originally from Cameroon, he studied in South Africa and has traveled the world. But his heart lies in Africa.
If you go to any African nation, go to any African universities, there's a lot of graduates completing out there. Computer science, maths, your science degrees, your engineering degrees. Where all of these people ended up? The really smart ones get taken away out of the continent and they're placed in San Francisco or London or Hamburg or maybe sometimes anywhere else in the world. But what if these people stayed in the continent?
But the main aim of ThoughtWorks is to develop software that will improve the lives of all Africans, even in the most remote parts of the continent. While most of Africa is still poor, cell phone penetration is high, but new smartphone technology is not as accessible. Brain believes that Africans need to find technology solutions that apply to the African context.
What we've realized is the African continent has been shortchanged. You've got your global companies that come here and develop software from the global offices, say in the US, say in London, and dump these technologies to the African continent. But we believe that it's high time that this is developed in Africa.
ThoughtWorks has several projects on the go in Africa, all aimed at improving the daily lives of people in the outlying areas as opposed to cities where incomes are higher and there's easier access to new technologies. There's also a focus on teaching people to use existing technologies to their benefit.
We've got a project with one of our clients which addresses the social issues in Uganda, where a normal citizen on the street can report something which they feel the government should address by using an SMS. Now that gives a citizen the power to start controlling what the government does with their money.
ThoughtWorks is growing its reach in Africa by recruiting young graduates locally and finding African talent abroad. The company wants Africans to come back home to help make a contribution to developing their continent. Sumitra Naidu, CCTV, Johannesburg.
On to some rather sad tech news now. Douglas Engelbart, the man credited with inventing the computer mouse and many of the other basics of modern desktop computing, has died at his home in Atherton, California. He was 88. The Computer History Museum in Mountain View, California, where Dr. Engelbart had been a fellow since 2005, confirmed his death. His wife, Karen O'Leary, said kidney failure was the cause of death. At a time when computers were quite literally the size of cars or houses in some instances and the ran on punch cards, Dr. Engelbart led a team of researchers who conceived ideas that helped to build the modern computer industry and allowed the machines to become a staple of work and home life. Right, quick run through the markets for you now as we wrap up BizAfrica for you. Some fascinating developments as we mentioned earlier on in Egypt. We'll get to that in a moment. First, though, Nigeria and the 3 other markets. The Nigerian markets up 1.5 percentage points. The all-share index also higher by 1.72 percentage points over in South Africa. The 20-share index here in Nairobi also in the green by just about a quarter. And finally, the Egyptian market putting up a stunning performance, 7.31 percentage points. Yields on bonds going down, CDSs dropping as well. Forward rates on the pound still a bit iffy, but this is a story to watch for the next couple of days. That's it for BizAfrica today.